Spring's in the books in South Florida. We want to hash it out here with Paul Scoop on the U to talk Miami football with the spring game last weekend. Hey, Paul, what's going on today?
Mark, I'm doing great. Just getting through that Monday grind like we all are. Thank you again for having me on your show. It's always a privilege and an honor to talk college football with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, we want to invite everybody into the live chat. Leave your comments, your questions, anything that you've got for Paul specifically or for the both of us concerning Miami football. All right. So the spring's completed. The next time we're going to see these guys on the field together is going to be in August. But at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity for these guys to get better. And I think that's one of the keys to being taking this seriously as a college football player is not just saying I show up and I go through the reps when I'm asked, but hey, between the end of spring practice and the first individual workouts and then the first team full squad workouts in August, I'm going to study the playbook. I'm going to do some extra running, some extra reps. I'm going to get better, and we'll see who those players are in particular. Based on what you saw on Saturday, what really stood out to you first and foremost?
Well, I'll tell you what, this was a great opportunity for a lot of underclassmen, a lot of newcomers to kind of give a little preview what they bring to the table. Miami was missing over 11 players, give or take. Guys like Bubba Bolden, Corey Couch, Will Mallory, Al Blades, they were not playing in the game. Don Chaney. So we were missing a lot of players. So, what I saw was kind of the future of Miami. A little glimpse of that. And Cameron Kitchens, 6 tackles, 1 interception. Chase Smith, 6 tackles. Isaiah Dunson, 5.5 tackles. Avante Williams, 4.5 tackles. 3 out of those 4 I mean, they're all redshirt freshmen or, just freshmen in general. So I think that's a very positive sign. We also saw the newcomer DeAndre Johnson, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and caused a safety during the spring game. And Jake Garcia got his stats right here: 19 out of 25, 255 passing yards, 2 TDs. Just a lot of great, meaningful, snaps the newcomers got, and I think they made a huge impact. And a lot of Canes fans, including myself, are very excited walking away, from this spring game. I think the newcomers really made a statement. They played like veteran Miami Hurricane football players.
Again, folks, I'll get to your questions here and pass them on to Paul. And if I've got something to say on it, I will as well. Please head on over to Paul Scoop on the U right here on YouTube. Check out his Miami channel, Talking Canes all the time over there as well. Lock it in here at the Voice of College Football. Please subscribe. Before you get settled, take in the conversation, hit the like button, do all those good things to help us build this thing out. And of course, share the links out there on social media. And it's just not here, but when you enjoy Paul's content, share the links out on social media. People out there don't know that we're talking Miami football, talking college football constantly. And so reach out to those folks. You mentioned Jake Garcia, and I think across the board, everybody was impressed with what they saw, just his command of the offense, his delivery of the football on time, delivery, velocity, accuracy across the board for the most part.
Wow, Jake Garcia. I haven't been this impressed with a true freshman who's only been on campus in Coral Gables for literally 1 semester that I could remember, during my time, watching Miami Hurricanes football. I think everybody, was left pretty impressed, and not to take anything away from Tyler Van Dyke, but I think ultimately in the quarterback room, the first time I've seen in quite a while, Miami has 2 Power 5 projected starting quarterbacks as your backup quarterbacks, in the springtime. Derek King is going to be our starting quarterback. He's our leader of the offense. But wow, Jake Garcia, man, he really did impress me a lot. Quick release, has a great arm. He's very comfortable in the pocket. It seems like, he took control of the huddle. He was very confident out there, and that's something I appreciated a lot. He built a nice connection with Charleston Rambo throughout the scrimmage on a couple drives. I love that up-tempo offense. They were running kind of no huddle in Rhett Lashley's offense. I felt like that really predicated Jake Garcia's skill set, and it was a nice rhythm they had going. Once again, man, I was really impressed with Jake Garcia. I think the future is very bright for him. At times, he did hold on to the ball a little bit too much, and I think in a less modified scrimmage, per se, in a real life game, that will get to him. But overall, man, tremendous job. He made literally an NFL caliber throw. It was 4th and 12. They had to convert, and he connected with Xavier Restrepo for roughly 15 yards. He had to stay in the pocket as well, and I think he even took a minor hit. But man, I left away very impressed. And to throw over for 255 passing yards, 2 TDs, 19 out of 25 for your first spring game at the University of Miami, one semester in, Manny Diaz said it best. Jake Garcia is playing like a veteran player.
Cortez Smith chiming in here. Can the offensive line show signs of consistent play as shown in the spring game?
Great question. Our first team offensive line, we had left tackle Zion Nelson, left guard Ja'Kai Clark. I still think Jalen Rivers will win that battle. We'll see. At center, you have Corey Gaynor, right guard Navon Donaldson. Then at right tackle, Scaife was filling in that role. I think Jared Williams will be your starter at right tackle. I thought they consistently played well. I think we have our first team base. Let's grow from there. This offensive line that we saw as first team on paper should do fine in ACC play. Now, against the elite Power 5 schools like Alabama's defensive line, that's when we're going to know our true colors. So we'll see against Alabama's defensive line if we can win the battle of the trenches. But I think this is a solid base in ACC conference play.
In terms of the running back position, maybe the most talented unit on the field, both sides of the ball, and where you probably, I would think, feel as comfortable there as anywhere, even though the running game isn't necessarily a place where you can make as good of an evaluation during a spring game.
Right.
Your thoughts about the running backs and working with the offensive line for a complete, running game evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, Don Chaney, who was not at the spring game, he's being held out for an injury, I believe, and he's going to be completely fine come Alabama, so don't worry about that at all. But, he was shining throughout the spring, and I think he'll be our starting running back. Someone who's been a nice late addition throughout this spring. A little nice surprise is Jalen Knighton. 7 carries, 43 rushing yards. Second scrimmage in a row, he will be our leading rusher. Obviously, Chaney hasn't played the last 2 scrimmages, but, that would be a nice combination with those 2 running backs. I'm curious how Cam Harris, I think we found his identity on this offense. He's a bowling ball, short yardage situation back. I think moving forward for the regular season, I think you got to go with the 1-2 punch with Don Chaney, Jalen Knighton, the 2 underclassmen. I think they'll take you to the promised land. I think that's a great duo. I would like to see, and Rhett Lashley stated this in a press conference, the carries distributed a little bit more favorable to one running back, and then, have your situational running back. And I think that's what we're going to see with Knighton and Chaney.
Anytime you've got, of course, new players, early enrollees that have never played college football, they're getting their first taste. And we've seen it behind closed doors, and they've experienced it for the last 3 to 4 weeks. But we get to see it as media and fans for the first time. It's interesting to see those guys have to raise their game from the high school level to the collegiate level. And, of course, they've got the talent to do so because that's the way they've been scouted. But anybody in that category that stood out either way?
Cameron Kitchens. I mean, true freshman, same situation as Jake Garcia. Just got on campus. Once again, man, he is shining. Everyone was raving about him, throughout this spring football season, that it's been a very easy transition for him. He's really didn't have to adapt to anything. You just plug him right in and he's ready to play. 6 tackles, 1 interception. I mean, he's playing out there like a veteran player. Also, Chase Smith. He can play probably 3 different positions, offense and defense at the Power 5 level. 6'3", 200 pounds. I mean, freak athlete. Those 2 guys, you put them in this Manny Diaz defense, they're going to shine. And I'm very excited what the future has for both of these players as true freshmen. Not to mention, we don't even have James Williams plugged into this defense. And Avonte Williams, man, he was bringing it throughout the entire spring game. I left very impressed with our secondary, specifically safeties.
Paul Scoop on the U. Check him out and his content over there. Again, Paul Scoop on the U right here on YouTube. And leave your comments, your questions. We'll get to those in just a second, because you got that category of player that we just brought up coming in from the high school ranks, early enrollees. Then you've got those transfer guys that have proven that they can get it done. They've been at big time programs, the three that I'm thinking of in particular. But it's nice to see that as CANES that they're going to bring it. And we're talking Charleston Rambo, DeAndre Johnson, and Tyreek Stevenson in particular.
I left very impressed with Charleston Rambo. I didn't think he would be that ready to play, in the spring. I thought it would take him just a little bit of time to getting adjusted to the offense, but it seemed like he was playing at Miami for the past couple seasons. When they sprinkled him in the offense, 7 receptions for over 74 receiving yards. Man, the connection and chemistry he already built with our quarterbacks, and putting it like this up-tempo offense is really going to play to his skill set. He'll be a nice deep ball threat. Put him in a ton of seam routes. He's going to get open. He's going to create space. I really think he can be a first-team All-ACC wide receiver in this offense, and he's going to put up a lot of big numbers. Earlier on this show, and I've said it to a lot of people, I thought Mike Harley could lead the team in receptions. That was guaranteed. Look out for Charleston Rambo. I mean, I really think he's going to be one of the top transfer portal players, to transfer to another Power 5 program in college football. DeAndre Johnson really impressed me as well. 2.5 tackles for loss, had 1 sack, created a safety. Remember, this is also a modified scrimmage. Defensive ends, edge rushers, defensive linemen. You just tap the quarterback. That's really it. You can't really get amped up, win those battles in the trenches. You're not going to get as fired up in a modified scrimmage. So I'm not expecting a crazy year from DeAndre Johnson. I think 6 sacks, is a solid goal. But, ultimately, I think DeAndre Johnson is going to make a nice, decent splash in ACC play and should get 2 4.5 sacks, 2 6 sacks. I think those are realistic predictions. Do we have a first-round pick edge rusher on this defensive line? No, we do not. But we've been spoiled the past couple seasons with those kind of prospects on our team. So I just hope as CANES fans we become a little bit level-headed, understand this may not be the elite defensive line we've seen in the past, but I think overall it's going to be a solid group. And one thing you mentioned about Tyreek Stevenson, I'm very confident for the first time in a while in our cornerback play. You plug in Tyreek Stevenson to Corey Couch, Al Blades, those 3 will probably be fighting for starting roles. Then you have Isaiah Dunson and DJ Ivy, Marcus Clark as providing depth, having that role. This is a very solid cornerback group at the Power 5 level. It's about time that question mark has been answered, and Miami finally has a complete cornerback room, Mark. So that's going to be very exciting to watch.
Ronan, always good to see you here. Always appreciate your contribution. You know that. Ronan on the defensive line. And again, it's a spring game. So every time there's a play made, somebody won the play, somebody lost the play. It's kind of tough to evaluate your own team when you look at, okay, well, that was great that that wide receiver just caught like a 38-yard ball, but who did he burn? Or there was just a sack. Well, who got beat on the offensive line? Or, fill in the blank. Every play, there's a winner, there's a loser. And when you're playing yourself, you can take the positive side or the negative side. Ronan's talking about the defensive line here. Needs to improve. Have faith they can give. Nesta and Taylor are still to come in, but was subpar for most of the day on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to plug in a couple defensive tackles. Nesta Silvera, I'm expecting a big final season of college football for him. I thought he was in the best shape of his life this past season. I think we're going to see the best of Nesta Silvera this upcoming season. Plus, Leonard Taylor, 5-star recruit, one of the best defensive tackles in the nation. Everyone is raving about him. They say he's going to be a star at the next level. So I'm not worried about the defensive line. I just hope, people don't expect the gaudy numbers that we saw in 2018. I think it's going to be a solid top 25 defensive line unit that's going to, create havoc in ACC play. I don't know if we'll win the battle of the trenches against your Clemsons, your Alabamas, but I think in ACC Coastal play, we should just do fine, and we should be the best defensive line unit in the ACC Coastal once again.
It must be a strange experience for a established college football player to then see the new guys come on campus. Not talking about the transfer guys like a Charleston Rambo who's proven that he can play at this level, but the new guys, see them come on, and you probably see basically 3 different versions of guys. You see the guys that, okay, they got potential, but man, we really need to get them into weight, strength and conditioning.
Right.
They really need to bulk up. They need to work on their game. They are definitely a couple years away from really competing for a job. Then you got those guys that, okay, we may be able to work him in on special teams. He might be a second team player. He can do some things here, has a lot to work on, but he can do some things. And then you're mentioning a couple guys that I'm not going to get too crazy about what they did in high school and what they could be immediately, but talking about Williams and Taylor stepping on campus here in a few weeks as 5-star guys. And I'm not saying that they're going to do it, because there are 5-star guys that struggle their first or second year, but there are those guys that the established collegiate players are used to the young guys stepping on campus not being ready and still having that upper hand on them. It must be an odd feeling when there's potentially a couple of guys out there that are going to come on campus and they're immediately going to be the best dude at their position unit.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and it's one of those things. Is that a good thing for your program, or is it not? At certain positions, because it's like, hey, if let's say Cameron Kitchens, let's say he's going to be one of our starting safeties right away. It's like, wait a second, so what about the rest? Like, you have veteran players, why aren't they getting that starting role? And they've been playing college football for 3 to 4 years, where Cameron Kitchens has only been playing one semester and he's already doing better. So, yeah, that's a big. I'm curious about that conversation, because modern day college football, we're seeing a lot of underclassmen quarterbacks starting as redshirt freshmen, something we haven't seen in the past, and that you see that more at elite programs. So, I'm curious, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting thing, to see players come from, high school, the transfer portal, and see how, hey, maybe they're not going to pan out. And I think Manny Diaz, he's being very selective in that process. His first year, God, Austin Martin, Tate Martell, Tommy Kennedy, the list goes on. There were a lot of players who did not contribute at all. I hate using the word waste of space, but yeah, they weren't contributing to the team, honestly. So we're being a lot more selective. We're in the recruiting trail as well. We're being selective with players. We're trying to get players in that aren't going to decommit from the program. They're going to, stay strong with their verbal commitment and ride out the entire recruiting process with the University of Miami. We're being a lot less, we're being more pickier. Instead of, it's going to be more quality over quantity. And so I think Manny Diaz is trying to evaluate those things and, get that down packed. And I think once he does, the ball can get rolling at Miami.
Once I saw Tate Martell line up and play some football, both in spring games and then also the little bit of time that he got like in the bowl game and so forth, I just didn't get the evaluation of him coming out of high school, because if you can't deliver the ball and you don't have the timing, the accuracy, the velocity on the football, and you're playing quarterback at that level, and I'm not pinning that on Miami, I'm also pinning that on Ohio State and everybody else that scouted him. It's not like he couldn't have gone anywhere in the country. And I understand his calling card was mobility and speed,
Right.
and he would have been a really nice weapon there. But it's not like he's Michael Vick, or it's not like he. When you step on the field with like athletes, then that's kind of taken away from you to a certain extent, that you're just going to blow by everybody.
Yeah, I'm curious, when Johnny Manziel won the Heisman, um, what year in high school was Tate Martell? Because usually what happens is, you see a player in college and everyone's like, hey, who's going to be the next Johnny Manziel? And, Tate Martell, similar frame, undersized quarterback who was fairly athletic, at the high school ranks. And, he was on a winning high school football program. So he was the leader of that high school football team that was nationally ranked. And so it's like, hey, he had the it factor. He was athletic. He could run all over the field. He can get the ball across above average to average arm. So I'm curious if that kind of sold a lot of people, that Johnny Manziel hype, to kind of really overhype Tate Martell. But another thing too, and this is what's going to, kind of transition to my next statement. I felt like Dan Enos as their quarterbacks coach. I felt like N'Kosi Perry, Jaron Williams, Tate Martell, everybody in that quarterback room regressed and did not develop during Dan Enos' time at Miami. And I think there was a lot of development under Coach Rhett Lashley. And we're seeing that right now with Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia this offseason. I think the same thing, N'Kosi Perry. Thought we saw a lot better N'Kosi Perry play against Oklahoma State. I think he would have developed nicely this spring under Rhett Lashley as well. Who knows? Maybe he would have been the best quarterback in the spring game. But you're going to see quarterback development under a true quarterback's coach. And I'm just very grateful that Rhett Lashley is our offensive coordinator and overseeing this position unit. Because, like Manny Diaz stated in his first day at Miami, the Miami standard is not there at the quarterback position and it needs to change. And he is answering that question right now.
We'll take into consideration that our guy Luke Walker is a North Carolina fan making this comment about the defense being undisciplined. I watched the game. I'm not going to say that I ardently watched it. I had Ohio State and Miami on at the same time, trying to take notes on both games at the same time. And when we talk about lack of discipline, there was a couple series there early where the defensive line jumped off sides a number of times, either two or three times. Other than that, I don't know where Luke's going, but is there anywhere that you felt as though the defense was not disciplined?
In my opinion, I always feel like in spring games, referees kind of let the game flow. So if there's like a 50-50 pass interference, they won't call it just the sake to, just get the game flowing. Spring games in general, there's going to be a lot of penalties, a lot of undisciplined plays. Something I've noticed under the Manny Diaz tenure, the University of Miami football program can be very undisciplined. We've seen this in past seasons. I think we gave up close to 70 yards in penalties against North Carolina. Gave up over 130 yards in penalties against Clemson. Miami is a heavily penalized team under Coach Manny Diaz. That's just the facts. So this needs to be a disciplined team if they want to be successful as a football program and get over that 10-win hump. So, hey, if that's what an outside perspective stated on the game, hey, I do not disagree with that statement. Plus, North Carolina beat us by like 40. So I tip my hat off to North Carolina. That's just me embracing a very good program that really, took it to us this past season. So I think it's refreshing to get an outside perspective from another fan because, as a fan of your team, you're always going to be biased per se, and you're not going to see little things that other people are going to notice more. So I appreciate that.
I've caught quite a few spring games to date, and there'll be more that I need to catch up to. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Ohio State, Alabama, etc. But Ronan brings up a good point. So everybody's missing players, and most of it's just precautionary. Let's sit him down. Let's sit him down. There's no reason to get him out there. He's got a sore ankle or whatever. But Ronan brings up a good point. Based on the lists that I'd seen of each one of the teams I just mentioned and a few more, everybody was sitting out players, but Miami sat out the most players. So they were missing a lot of key guys on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no, it was like over 11 players. We didn't have any tight ends whatsoever. There was an off the field incident with Larry Hodges. Elijah Royal didn't. I think he's injured or a minor injury. They don't want to put him in the game. We didn't have Will Mallory. We really didn't have any tight ends whatsoever. We were missing Al Blades to Corey Couch, two of our potential starting corners, or they're going to get a lot of playing time. We were missing over 11 players. Bubba Bolden was not in the game. Nesta Silvera wasn't there. If you want to count the, later enrollees, you can do that. Your Leonard Taylors, James Williams. But we were missing a lot of players. Jared Williams, another name. I keep thinking of names, and it's another player we're missing. But yeah, no, we didn't have a lot of guys, and it wasn't our true team we're going to roll out against Alabama or for this 2021 season. And that's when I say I get really excited, because if Miami has a complete healthy season and everyone is on board, there's no injuries, like this could be a very good football team. And I think your mark is that 10-win mark now. And what's going to change, in my opinion, from a team that's ranked 15 through 25, small differences from crashing the top 10 is being disciplined. Who's going to commit less turnovers, less penalties, who's going to be the more disciplined football team. I think that's the difference from a top 10 program to a program that's ranked 15 through 25. So, hey, we'll find out.
Yeah, and the way that shows itself in terms of the results is going from a team that pretty much beats most of the teams in their division, like Miami has.
Right.
And you got to break through against somebody. You got to be a 10-2 team to reach the top 10 in the nation at the end of the regular season. Of course, then you play a bowl game, but you got to be a 10-2 football team. And for this team, most likely that's going to lose to Alabama, it's going to have to take care of business week to week to week against the teams that they should, but not have any letdowns. No Pitt losses, no Georgia Tech losses. And then that North Carolina game, of course, is going to be huge if they take care of business with all the other games that they've got to face in the conference. And I would think off the top of my head, Pitt, North Carolina State are going to be two of the tougher ones, other than North Carolina, where that there could be, a possible letdown there. Virginia as well. The wide receivers, Paul, interesting situation there. We saw Keyshawn Smith really break through, make a lot of nice plays, flash a number of times. You got those two vets, D. Wiggins and Mark Pope. They gain a lot of criticism. They made some plays. They also made some drops. And they're going to have to watch their backs here in August.
I think Mark Pope, and I could be wrong, I think he led the team in receiving yards with 115 receiving yards, and he could have had much more than that. I think the issue that a lot of people have, with Mark Pope is like he's dropping the easy passes. It's not the tough plays. It's the easy passes wide open that you just need to catch, and they can be big plays because that catch could go for 6, and that could be the outcome, the difference in the game. So I really am pulling for Mark Pope and D. Wiggins, but it's getting to a certain point where you got to go play the guys you recruited and grow from there instead of the veteran players that have been in your program. Remember, D. Wiggins and Mark Pope, I believe they were recruited under Ron Dugans. This is the Rob Likens wide receiver core now. Rob Likens had to play a lot of players this past season in the rotation that he didn't really want to play per se because nobody else really knew the playbook. You had a lot of underclassmen wide receivers come in, so watch out. A guy like Keyshawn Smith, Dazzling Worsham, maybe they can add nice depth to this wide receiver rotation. But I think your 3 main wide receivers that are going to be targeted throughout this whole season are going to be Mike Harley, Charleston Rambo, Xavier Restrepo, and then hopefully Keyshawn Smith and Dazzling Worsham will be that nice kind of added depth that you need. But D. Wiggins and Mark Pope, they have the skill set. It's shown they can play at the Power 5 level. It's just if you're going to be mentally strong, and I think it's a lack of confidence, unfortunately, and I think it gets to their head a lot, the drop passes.
Ghost AAO, appreciate that you can join the live show. You seem to be excited about that. Great to have you here. We talk Miami football typically with the Wholesome One and Cam Underwood on Thursday nights. I wanted to get Paul's take on the spring game and anything else that he's got on his mind concerning the Canes. So great to have Paul here on a Monday evening. Ricardo, I appreciate you being here. You're throwing out a ton of stuff at me, but I got to admit, some of it I'm not making much sense out of. So maybe that's me. You're basically telling us that Miami should join the SEC. There's mountains that would have to be moved for that to happen. So just that's really off the table. So Miami, the ACC has every opportunity where it's located and with the money that they bring in to build a better football conference. So hey, win the ACC and you're going to be in good shape. Just look to South Carolina, the state of South Carolina, and what Clemson's doing. You can have a fine program there in the ACC and reach all your goals. No question about that. So don't be concerned there. 904 Hurricane, thank you so much for reminding everyone to hit the like button. We got Sami 47 Crip, more intelligent YouTube commentary from Mark and Paul. Appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for the super chat there. Ronan, great to see Paul on again. The new podcast is great. Don't forget to hit the like button and join Mark on Patreon. And as soon as I trip up on a word, Ronan's going to remind me to get my glasses on. Don't forget to hit the like button and join Mark on Patreon too. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. Go Canes. So, Paul, we want to make sure that you let everybody know about your new podcast and where to find that.
Yeah, I have a new podcast. I'm the host of the Believe Network. It's called the Believe in the You podcast. You can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher. So go check that out. Once again, the Believe in the U, BLEAV. And I just interviewed Bryant McKinney. So, hey, very impressive NFL veteran player who a lot of great insight on how he ended up in Miami, kind of what coach or mentor he had throughout his time. He did speak about the Miami Hurricanes game against Alabama, what he thought kind of differences between Coach Butch Berry and Garen Justice as well. So there's a lot of great insight, and there's also a very cool NFL draft day story that he had with a very, very good player that didn't go to Miami. So another top 10 pick.
I was going to say, as soon as you said Bryant McKinney, and again, everyone, check that out because that's a tremendous get. As soon as you said his name, I'm not positive about this, but I believe that draft story, does it not include there was an issue with the selection of picks and the Vikings screwed up their pick and something got mixed up? And I don't remember exactly. It's been so long ago exactly what happened.
It was a story about him and Julius Peppers, and I don't want to give the story away. But it was about them, just going out the night before and a little bit of I guess, a mix up, a kind of a pre-draft story and kind of, something of that aspect. But it's pretty cool.
That would be a different story. There is a story, and again, I might be screwing this up with the player. It might not be Bryant McKinney, but I'm almost certain that it is. That there was an issue with the Minnesota Vikings not getting their selection in on time, and they had to drop a pick, and then the team after them got to go, and then they had to select after that. It was, what year was that? Do you remember what year he was selected?
I always get it's like 0203 the year. I think it was after the national title game. Yeah.
Appreciate everybody in the live chat. I'm going to be back after Paul jumps off here to take your calls on college football. And Paul, definitely, I know you've had a long day of work. However long you want to take this, we will keep you here. But
one thing I want to add, Mark, that hasn't been touched up on yet, and this is what Josh Pate stated from the Late Kickoff Show, who does a phenomenal job, even 24/7 Sports. Kind of, I guess you can say, endorse his channel. He represents them now. Linebacker play at Miami, that's going to be a big question, for this upcoming season. We do have Corey Flack, who I think is our, probably our best player returning, but we'll be fine in ACC conference play. But when you get to that elite Power 5 level, that's where I get worried. And I wouldn't be surprised if Manny Diaz gets aggressive and takes a linebacker from the transfer portal, kind of a late addition, because it really is going to help our team a lot. I think overall we're starting to see a balanced Miami Hurricanes football team at a lot of positions. And I think linebacker unit, it's going to be missing this upcoming season. I think we're going to see average to above average play at most, just because of the personnel we had. Not trying to be a downer, but that's just the way I see it. They moved over Keontre Smith from striker to the inside linebacker position. I'm curious how he will play with a big-bodied running back, especially in short yardage situations and goal line stands. I feel like he's a little bit undersized, needs to put on more weight, but he's very athletic. I think his skill set will match well at ACC conference level. But once again, you bring those big body running backs like we saw against North Carolina, Alabama, or Clemson. I don't know. I'm curious how we will pan out. But look out for Manny Diaz to hit the transfer portal. This is just my opinion, educated guess, but I would not be surprised if Manny Diaz does address that issue.
We're at a point in the season where in the past, you would have said, okay, spring practice is over. We saw the spring game. Sure, we can keep talking college football. But basically, in terms of news, we're not going to hear anything unless, unfortunately, somebody gets in trouble or somebody gets hurt. Those are the two things that we're going to hear about for the next couple months. But this season, a bit different. Number one is this transfer portal that doesn't stop. It just keeps going. And now that spring practice is over for just about everybody, we've got another pretty good list of teams that are going to play this Saturday, and then a few teams the first week of May, and then everybody's going to be done. There's going to be a lot of players sizing up where they stand after spring practice. They're going to get a better feel on, okay, I'm not quite as high in the depth chart than I thought I would be. I may want to move on here. So this transfer portal could kick in the next few weeks to the next month or so, number one. Number two is, of course, because of the dead period, there's not been as many athletes committing to schools for that 2022 class that we would have normally seen. Now, June 1st, the floodgates are going to be opened up. They're going to be taking visits. We see all these schools announcing big weekends of bringing in 10, 15, 30 players, Miami included. And then we're going to probably see in the weeks after that flow of players coming on campus, a lot of guys committing. So probably more news to talk about coming up here in June, July than we normally would have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the transfer portal, this is like such a interesting argument because, or just conversation because, transfer portal is taking away spots from a lot of high school recruits and they have nowhere to go. A lot of these players, they want to sign to a Power Five program. In the past, they would be able to, but since the transfer portal is the new free agency of college football, a lot of these players, fill in those needs at Power Five programs, and then it's kind of a it's I don't know what's the word for it, a little turmoil or a downfall for high school recruits to commit to Power Five schools. Is there going to be availability at the G5 level? So you're going to see a lot of high school recruits who literally have nowhere to go for their college career, and NCAA has a lot at hand right now. And that new eligibility rule where they can transfer without sitting out, I thought that was very interesting, but it's going to be literally, I mean, free agency times 10 for the transfer portal. I think a lot of players are going to be jumping ship.
What also, if I'm working the math right in my head, is going to hurt the high school athlete coming out is that even though the transfer portal's in full throttle and we've seen, I don't know what the number's at now, it was in the 400 or 500 range. It might be considerably higher than that. These guys are basically trading roster spots. So, of course, as a player leaves and goes to one program, he is filling a spot and taking a spot there, but he just left one open over here. So, unless I'm missing something, that should keep that particular number about even. But what's really going to affect this high school class is going to be that opportunity for all those players to stick around for another year and gain that extra year of eligibility that was given to them by COVID. And a lot of guys are taking advantage of that.
Right, exactly. And a lot of players, if you were a redshirt freshman, I think like you could have, like, technically you should have been a junior, but now you're still a redshirt freshman. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You're seeing players who, Zach McLeod's been here for what, 6 years or 7 years. I mean, it's an insane number. Like Scott Patchen was a former DN at Miami. He's at Colorado State, and I think he's been in college football for 7 years. Like, he can probably get a PhD at this point. So, no, you're seeing a lot of players stay at programs for quite a while. So, interesting times.
Here's a wide open question. BGPO Football Funk, our guy DeAndre, always appreciate you jumping on here. Can Miami catch Clemson in talent?
Absolutely. I mean, recruiting, Miami is in a great, hotbed of recruiting in South Florida. I think the key thing is coaching and development. That's what it comes down to. We have the talent at Miami, no doubt about it. But are you going to give up 130 yards in penalties when you face Clemson? Okay, you're not going to win a football game like that. This isn't the Cotton Bowl, Randall Hill running through the tunnel where you can get away with that. Okay, against elite programs, you can't do that. We just don't have the skill set at every single position. We're starting to see a balance. Where at Miami previously, we were very slimmed at one position, very stacked at another. It was very imbalanced. So once we get balanced at every single position, and once a player declares for the draft, the next player comes up and reloads at that position, which is what Clemson has done at the quarterback position, then that's when Miami is catching up. But until then, Miami needs to reload at the quarterback position. That's a great example. There's been a huge backdrop. We had Brad Kaya, pretty solid ACC quarterback, was given the opportunity to play in the NFL by the Lions, probably could have stayed another year, whatever. That's a whole nother story. But then after Brad Kaya leaves, you have a huge drop off. De'Ara King is now your starting quarterback. He's doing a great job. Jake Garcia, Tyler Van Dyke. Are they going to have a better UM career than Jake Garcia or than De'Ara King? If if those two players play better than De'Aaron King at the college level, then yeah, Miami should have no issue. But you got to reload every single season, and Clemson has achieved that in several positions across the board. Miami has not.
Mr. HD, this is the best Miami roster since 2004.
It's kind of like the past rosters have been kind of like blah, to be real. I mean, 6-7, 7-6. We've gone like 8-4 probably a couple times since then, give or take, off the top of my head. So I mean, we'll see. They haven't played a regular season game yet. I like to compare rosters after the season is over. But I think that would be a great sign for Miami if this was the best roster since 2004. I'd say this team is a lot more balanced at every single position than we've seen in quite a while.
Absolutely. Again, you can catch Paul on his YouTube channel, Paul Scoop on the U, and head on over there. What are you seeing?
Defenders know Pope isn't going to fight hard for contested balls, I think. Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran ACC player. I mean, a lot of defenders, once you see the same wide receiver over and over again in conference play, your coaches, I mean, you're going to get a head start on that player. I'm not expecting Mark Pope and D. Wiggins to get a lot of burn this upcoming season. Like I said earlier, I think you're going to see your three main targets, and you're going to see an influx of Keyshawn Smith and Dazzling Worsham get a lot of playing time. We may see earlier in the season, guys like Mark Pope and D. Wiggins an opportunity to play, but if they don't step up, if they don't, get better throughout the season, show signs that they've developed from the offseason, then you got to go to the guys you recruited, the personnel you brought in. It's a new era at Miami. You're a new wide receiver coach. You got to play your guys.
We got a couple of calls for you and the Wholesome One to jump on at the same time. That would be sweet.
One day. We'll get it one day. I promise. Okay. Unless we can do it right now. I got 15 minutes. Or
we will make that happen.
Do it on the fly.
We'll make that happen. So we got 15 minutes with Paul. Please leave your comments, your questions right here, and we will send them to Paul. You have any thoughts about the recent conversation reports about the NFL draft and where Jalen Phillips, Greg Rousseau in particular, those two guys slot?
It's interesting because it seems like Jalen Phillips, now you never know what could happen on draft day. I mean, these mock drafts are just a rough estimate, but I think the one by CBS has Gregory Rousseau going as the first or third pick in the second round. And I thought that was interesting because Jalen Phillips, who played this season, might go top 15, top 20, might go before Gregory Rousseau. And, I truly believe this might be an indictment of players taking off a year. It kind of kills their draft status. Gregory Rousseau only really had one full year of college football tape. And when he was coming off of that season, people had him in the top 5, arguably top 10 for sure, first round pick through the top 15 picks, and now he's going to the second round. I think that shows you taking a year off, your draft status kind of drops a little bit. You're trending upward, and then, hey, we haven't seen you played in 1 year, so you were trending upward, but now you're not as on fire as you used to be. Where Jalen Phillips, everyone's raving about him. So, I thought that was very interesting. I'm curious looking back. I wish the best of luck to Gregory Rousseau, and I hope he gets drafted in the first round. But I'm curious if he regrets maybe sitting out that year, because going from a top 5 pick mock draft wise and several mock drafts to potentially now the second round, I don't think that was the right decision. But hey, go out, get your money, and I hope you have a great NFL career, and he will have a great NFL career as well.
Paul, now that you've taken in the spring game, and not just the spring game, if you take the spring game, combine it with everything that came out over the last 3 to 4 weeks, all the reports, everything you could possibly gather, any bits of video, and obviously that's not nearly as much as any of us would like to be able to see and hear, and most of it has to be filtered through the coaches and players, so it's difficult to get the real scoop, pardon the pun. But what would be your thought about any one particular player, unit on the team, storyline, theme that you feel differently about today than you did a month ago based on what happened at spring practice?
Well, I think, our secondary I'm a lot more confident in than I've been in quite a while. I was, fairly satisfied. I just didn't know how big of a change or, how well they would play. I also didn't know about our backup quarterback situation as well. I mean, people, they see Tyler Van Dyke throw one pass, a quick down and out, and they're saying, oh, he's the next Joe Montana. We have the next Vincent Testaverde. Like, relax. I'm more confident in the future of the quarterback position. Seeing guys like Jake Garcia, Tyler Van Dyke, they're more prepared in advance than I've seen in quite a while. Seeing a preferred walk-on like Dante Anderson come in about your wide receiver rotation, like he played amazing, 5 receptions, 56 yards. He looks like a ACC conference wide receiver that can play in most wide receiver rotations at different programs, probably at the mid-tier level. So wide receiver rotation, I left very confident in. I didn't know Charleston Rambo how big of a splash he would make. Left very confident with that. Secondary as well. I haven't been as confident in our cornerback room in a while. And, credit to Travaris Robinson, sorry, taking over that unit and, building depth, which has been a huge concern at Miami at the cornerback position, bringing in guys like Tyreek Stevenson, developing Isaiah Dunson, who blew up from this strength and conditioning program, to Corey Couch, Al Blades Jr. All these guys are going to be fighting for a lot of playing time. Okay, I think that's been answered. And our secondary, specifically safeties, man, we are stacked. So that's very refreshing to see. And I think ultimately this team should, if the over or under, whatever you want to call it, was 9 wins, I'm taking the over on this football team. You're only 2 games that you got to look out for, in my opinion. Circling that Michigan State team as well, but Alabama, North Carolina. Michigan State is at home, so I'll take that. But Alabama, North Carolina, Miami should go 10 wins at least, and then you're going to split one of those. This is a 10-11 win Miami Hurricanes football team. I'm confident in that, but we need to be disciplined. If this is a disciplined football team and it cuts the amount of yards and penalties or penalties overall that we've had this past season, we will finish in the top 15, top 10 range, and we will play for a New Year's Six Bowl. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, when I look at the schedule, I see the same thing. I see one almost certain loss, and then I see a couple threats there. But 10-2 should be the outcome, if not 11-1, but 10-2. But then again, for as many people as have stated that I am a hater when it comes to Miami football, I've overestimated their win total by 2 or 3 games the last 2 years. So I don't know how I'm a hater, but that 6-6 2 years ago, I said 8-4, and people were coming after me saying, this is a 10-2, 11-1 football team, and I said 8-4, and they went 6-6. And last year I had them at 9-3 before, of course, the season was shortened.
And Mark, this all comes down to being healthy. If Miami has a big injury plague, I mean, hey, that 10-win mark where you think, hey, we can get over 9 wins, hey, that can go down. So we need to be healthy, and you can't control injuries. Either they're going to happen or not. So I think De'Ara King coming back, it's going to be great. Worst case scenario, you put in, one of our underclassmen quarterbacks who's shown they can play at the Power 5 level. I think this should be a team that if they don't win the ACC Coastal, I'm sorry, it's a disappointing season because they should get 10 wins easily.
This is way off topic, but Ricardo was telling us that Alex Smith retired. Did you hear that?
Yes, he did retire.
Did he retire?
Yeah,
was that today?
Today or yesterday.
Okay. All right.
It was recent. Yeah.
I'm not going to give my evaluation on Alex Smith today, but I have a lot of thoughts. I've got a lot of respect for him, especially coming back from that horrific. If anybody saw the documentary on ESPN concerning Alex Smith's injury with the Redskins 2 years ago, it's just unbelievable what he came back from. And he was a tremendous player. Did he live up to the number 1 pick in the draft? Not necessarily, but he was a quality player for a long time. So Hall of Fame, let's back off on that, Ricardo. But Alex Smith was certainly a quality NFL starter. All right. Well, we got about 3 or 4 minutes, something in that range.
Yeah. I got 11 minutes left. Do the hour mark.
Absolutely. So, Wholesome One, just to let you know, I sent you that link, but Paul's got about 10 minutes. So it's out there for you.
And by the way, I mean, I saw the comment, Miami's not an 11-win team. Hey, you could be 110% right. Knowing Miami football, we tend to win consecutively and lose consecutively. And it's shown in the past, when you lose the locker room at Miami, it really goes south. But on paper, talent-wise, Miami should win at least 10 games on paper. You're playing in the ACC Coastal. It's not the strongest division. You do have a tough opponent in Michigan State. You should take care of business at home playing Michigan State and beating App State. Sorry, we play App State after Alabama. But, your two toughest opponents are going to be Alabama and North Carolina. The rest, NC State is a pretty solid football team. You got to come ready to play. 10-2 or 8-4 worst case scenario. That's the way I see it. I don't think this is going to be a 7-5 football team or worse.
I see it exactly the same way. I don't think there's any question about it when you look at the talent, that there's one team on the schedule that plays at the same level, and they didn't when they met this past season, and that's North Carolina. There's one team that's significantly better, not just than Miami, but everybody else. That's Alabama. And then there's the North Carolina game. Now, all those other teams, a lot of those other teams, I shouldn't say all of them, most of those other teams are capable of beating Miami on a given Saturday, but they shouldn't. They shouldn't beat them, but they're capable. Yeah, Pitt's a capable team. North Carolina State, Michigan State, App State's one of the better group of 5 teams you're going to run into. But still, they were the Sun Belt champion and best team 5 years ago, and Miami didn't have a great team. They had a good team, a decent team, and Miami clocked them by 5 touchdowns when they went to Appalachian State. So they may not be able to do it to that level, but they should beat App State fairly comfortably because they just play on different levels. But can they look past App State? No.
App State's going to be a very interesting game, Mark, because I'm pretty confident it's the week after Alabama. But what's the response Miami's going to have? Whether they lose to Alabama in a close game by a huge margin or they beat Alabama and shock the world, what is that response going to be as a football program when you have your home opener against a pretty solid opponent that won their respected conference? What's the response going to be? And yes, I know they're taking Duke's transfer quarterback in. He's going to be at App State for his final year of college football, I believe. I think it's been something. But, what's that response going to be? And I think that's going to be huge. And I think that's going to be a statement on the locker room and the coaching staff as well. Whether they beat Alabama or they lose to Alabama, what is the response going to be against App State and that non-conference schedule?
I'll say one statement about Michigan State in that game before we bring in the Wholesome One, and that's that Miami's decidedly better than Michigan State. Not like tons of levels above Michigan State, but they're decided. There's no question. It's not an argument. They are a more talented roster than Michigan State. But Michigan State, because of the football they play a physical brand. They'll have a tough team, a tough defense, and they play in a conference where they're not going to be like phased by coming down to Miami and playing. If they lose that game 31-10, it's because they just were against a faster, more talented team, but it wasn't because they were like wowed because they were playing Miami. It's not going to be a big deal to them to play Miami.
I can see that Michigan State game kind of being one where Miami wins by 10 points. And if Miami wins by 21 against Michigan State, I think that would be kind of a statement saying the program is changing and this is a good football team.
Look at the Wholesome One driving down the road.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. What's up, man? How y'all doing today?
Doing well.
This is where I just shut up and let you guys talk for 5 minutes because Paul's got not a whole lot of time, but I'll let you guys chop it up.
Well, Paul, man, good to see you. You don't answer my calls. You don't text me back. It's okay.
Been busy.
It's all right. I still
Been
love
busy
you.
with
It's
the
okay.
move.
Oh, yeah. Well, congratulations with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So tell me this, man. We watched the game. I was able to hop on right before, what happened on Saturday afternoon. I don't want to get into that, but Saturday morning, watch the CANES, and I'm able to talk to Mark. And we're sitting there talking, and I, for one, was thoroughly impressed with what I saw because I had very low expectations for what I was going to watch.
Right.
And the only thing that I saw that I could question is maybe the stamina of the offensive line and maybe Keontra Smith on the weak side, but I really loved it. I like he could be an answer for us on third downs. They had Amari Carter at inside and Keontra at weak side. So I guess my only question to you is what are some of the things that you saw, uh, good or bad, in the game? I mean, for the most part, it's probably the best spring game I've ever watched for us as far as the smooth transition. We didn't look crazy. The first couple of minutes were really bad as far as jumping off sides, dropping balls. But, man, once they settled in, it looked like a focused, well-oiled machine for a little bit. And that's all I've ever wanted this program to be.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think I came in like you, not like low expectations, kind of seeing the off-season hype that we always see, and then spring game, it's like, whoa, they're still not there. A lot of more talk than really action. I was like you with Keontra Smith. I think he'll be fine in ACC play. I still question, the matchups, against an Alabama, against a Clemson. I still think against a bigger running back, we're going to have issues at linebacker. I think we're quite undersized. I think that's something we got to target in the transfer portal. That's just my opinion. But I think we'll be fine in ACC conference play. I love the move with Amari Carter. I did see DJ Ivy at times, kind of the same DJ Ivy as past years, getting beat in coverage, not being physical aggressive as in the past. I thought he would get better under Travaris Robinson, so I'm curious how that will be. I know he was moved to the sidelines. He wasn't sitting on his right foot, according to Manny Navarro. So, I think coming out of that game, I'm very confident in the cornerback room, though. Besides DJ Ivy, I thought Corey Couch, coming back without Blades, St. Tyreek Stevenson, Isaiah Dunson to me is a starter at any Power 5 program. So I'm very confident with our cornerback play, man. It's going to be very exciting. Offensive line, we have our base, and we're going to grow from there. The conditioning thing that you stated, I think it's, that first game, in a live scrimmage, once they get through another, strength and conditioning program under Coach Feely, get used to playing in the hot sun, I think you'll see a lot more conditioned offensive line. And we'll have Jared Williams as well plugged in, so.
And like I said, I'll respect your time. I don't know how much time you got left, but I will say that that's just me nitpicking, to be honest. It's not. That's not really a big deal. I mean, we're dealing with 300+ pound men. I don't expect them to be track runners, out there breathing just fine. But that will probably be one of the only things I was very
Wholesome One, if you can
pleased
hear
with
us,
excluding a couple drops, even D Wiggs and am I back now? Wiggs and Pope early on with the drops, they ended up having a better second half. So we got to see a pretty good team, man. I'm not here to take your thunder. I heard somebody say to collab. I'm like, I'm free. I can give them 5 minutes. It's always good to talk with my guy on, and also to be on Mark Rogers TV, man. It's a good feeling.
Now, I want to pick your brain, Wholesome One. What did you think about Jake Garcia, first impressions, and Tyler Van Dyke? I felt like they were Power 5 starters, and Jake Garcia was impressive. The only thing, I felt like he held on to the ball a lot of times. He made one really bad pass in the end zone that could get picked off in any game. He was trying to force it to Charleston Rambo, and he was double covered as well. I think that was just confidence and just getting overly excited. But overall, I was very impressed with the true freshman.
I was thoroughly impressed with Jake Garcia. I'm one of those people that I try hard, man, not to get into the fandom. Jake Garcia, start chanting, and we're pulling out the signs and the T-shirts. But man, he played such a good brand of ball. Me and Mark talked about it. He's the highest ranked QB we've had since Marv, in the mid 2000s, mid to late 2000s. Even Brad Kite, he was ranked according to 247. He's ranked higher than Brad Kite was, way higher than Jacory, way higher than Stephen Morris. And look at what they were able to do for our program. De'Aaron King comes in and shows us a little bit of stability in the program. And then now he's able to give us another year and can hold off these two youngsters. And I think that'll only make them go even better moving on to 2022. But what a great opportunity for this program to where we don't have to depend on Jake Garcia as a freaking freshman. We
Right.
don't have to depend on TBD as a freshman. This was the second and third team.
Yeah.
We had 15 players out, 11 of them are starters. So this was the
Yeah.
second and third team guys going at it, which is why we had to do Team Hurricane versus Team Ibis, as opposed to which was technically ones versus ones and twos versus twos, instead of having two separate whole teams play each other because the numbers dropped out. And this is still a clean game. Yeah, it was some penalties, it was some drop passes, a couple of blown coverages. That's gonna happen. But for the most part, we looked like a team. Now the next step is looking like a program. Well, a machine, you go out there, you run the football, our wide receiver catch the football, we tackle on defense, good communication in the secondary. That's like year 3, year 4. That's kind of, it's close because we're on Coach Diaz's year 3, so we do look better. But as far as a whole, it probably a year or so away from just looking like something where they go out there and they just line up and play football at a freaking high level, and there's not much you can do about it unless you're just better than us. I heard you say something about 9 or 10 wins, taking the over or under on that, man.
No, we
You
have
really?
to. We
Yeah.
have to.
Well,
Yeah, we have to. It's
with this schedule, it's top heavy because of Bama, then 4 straight home games, a bye week, and then your second biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
That's lined up for 4-1, unless we pull a Miami and we're 3-2. But hopefully that type of stuff is behind us as a program. Side note, I have really good driving skills to be able to look in the camera, talk to you, and not hit anybody. So
I don't want to be responsible for that.
I chose to come on. I mean, hey, I've been on FaceTime a lot while driving, Mark. This is nothing. So, Paul, my last question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
My last question for you. As more of an offensive guy, I mean, you like QBs and receivers and all that fancy stuff. Do you think some of the answers on the defensive side of the ball have shown up? I say when it comes to edge, we've been spoiled for a while. Like half a decade, we've been spoiled with really good edge play at the University of Miami. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. With Jafari Harvey, with Johnson from Tennessee, I could really see him doing well in the system, but we don't have anybody proven just yet. I mean, heck, you can say the same thing about Jalen Phillips because we didn't know who he was going to be in a Miami Hurricanes uniform. So do you see any of the questions as far as linebacker, edge, or elite corner play? Do you see some of those answers either on the horizon, or were some of them already answered after this spring game?
Cornerback play, we're turning the corner. Depth-wise is there. We have 3 corners right now, 4, including Dunson, not including Ivy, that can compete for a starting role on any Miami team. The past 10 years, I really love Isaiah Dunson. He blew up under Coach Feely, and depth has finally been answered at that position. Edge rusher, I'll be honest, I'll be completely surprised if we have one defensive end get over 4 sacks this season.
Woo!
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised.
Give me a Scotty. I could get 4 in my sleep. Don't make me get out of retirement. They don't call me a QB killer for nothing.
You have a lot of solid players for your edge rushers. Javari Harvey, DeAndre Johnson, Cam Williams, Chance Williams. You have a lot of solid players. The talent is there, the skill set's there. We haven't seen a lot of film on those guys. They haven't gotten a lot of playing time, so I'm curious how they're going to play throughout an entire season. This is the first time in a while I'm actually very excited about our defensive tackles unit. I think it's very solid. I think there's a lot of depth. Nesta Silvera, Leonard Taylor. You got Jonathan Ford, Jordan Miller, Jared Harrison Hunt. I mean, I'm smiling just think of that. So the tables are kind of turning. Last couple of years, it was defensive end. We were spoiled. I think we're going to be spoiled at defensive tackle in our interior. So I'll flip that on you. With those guys, I think they're going to have a huge splash this upcoming season. Harrison Hunt, he's going to be our most consistent D tackle. And Nesta, he's hot and cold, I feel like, in his play. If he can just be mentally tough, the opposing team does not get in his head, and he can be just put it all together and just be mentally tough, he'll be fine this upcoming season. We'll see the best season from Nesta Silvera. Linebacker play.
Wait.
You're getting on the Wholesome One's good side there with Nesta.
It's about time.
Time out.
Yeah, it's about time.
Time out. You can't just skate over what you just said. Like, you didn't just say that. You said that Harrison Hunt is our most consistent defensive tackle?
He will be this upcoming season.
I almost hit somebody because of you. I'm messing with you. I don't know about that much, man. I think, okay, I parked. We're safe now. Here's the thing. I think Nesta is the most consistent this year because he has to. If you talk about an up and down D tackle, I would say Ford or Miller, 100%, because we never know what we're going to get out of either one of those two. If 91 or 96 decides to take over a play, we'll get one or two plays a game out of them. You watch that film of Nesta, he made a play in almost every game, excluding North Carolina, where everyone just looked like they didn't know what the heck was going on, right? But I think Harrison Hunt, yet again, his snap count is going to go up, but he's still going to be able to be held off to not have to be a starter, which is beautiful again, because you have the big bodies in Ford or Miller, Nesta, and then he gets to back up Nesta. So on third downs, Nesta gets to move over. Harrison Hunt comes in to rush the passer. And then you got Leonard Taylor and Elijah Roberts behind those guys.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good 2 to 3 deep, especially when it comes to third downs getting to the quarterback. Now, I do understand what you mean about the edge rush being rushed by committee. I don't know if anybody's going to really stand up above everyone else. I think all of them are kind of, we'll see what happens, guys. So I definitely get that on the defensive line. But, I mean, Nesta's going to get the double team. First game of the season, Nesta's going to get the double team.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I think when I mean good defensive tackles too, I mean, I don't know if we're there at the elite Power 5 level yet, where we can win those battles of the trenches. And I think Alabama we're going to struggle against just because it is what it is. Just personnel-wise, we're not there, and that's just being honest.
And especially because Coach O'Brien is not going to bring out the Steve Sarkisian spread. So they won't blow us by 40 because they're going to have more of an old school approach to their game. I still think we lose the game, but I mean, it's not going to be like, either the Lane Kiffin or the Steve Sarkisian spread where they were airing it out, throwing for, 400 yards in a game, 115 on the ground. It'll be a little different. They're going to line up and come right at you. What are you going to do about it? And that starts with the men closest to the ball, the one techniques and the 3 techniques and the defensive tackles that we're talking about now. And until somebody shows me, besides Nesta, who's going to get the double team, they're not going to let him take over the game. So if anybody else can disengage from an offensive guard and make a play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, we're going to be in trouble. It's just that simple.
How do you feel about linebacker?
I went into this camp because everybody keeps talking about Corey Flatt. Okay. I turn on the game. I didn't see anything. Did you see a big play from 11?
Nothing. We're missing that hit stick player, man. We're missing that. We used to have at Miami. This was in past defenses. We used to have that middle linebacker, that Denzel Perryman, that would just come through, shoot through the gap, and you will remember him when you ran that football every single time.
Absolutely.
Under Manny Diaz's tenure, we have not recruited the same way at the linebacker position. We have brought in athletes to fill in that role lately. That's what we did with Keontre Smith.
Same thing we did with Sam Bruce. He's a 3-3-5 stand-up edge rusher. You force him to play middle linebacker, you wonder why he's not succeeding. That's just simple. That doesn't even take you to be a coach for 10, 15 years to realize that. A fan can turn on the film and realize he's not used to this. Why are you forcing it?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. Now I have to overcoach you to try to get you on the same level as other people. And then he's already the best linebacker on the team, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just see ball, get ball. Now,
Right.
I'm not a hater. I by no means have anything against Corey Flagg, but all this hype, and I turn on the film and I'm like, where's this guy that everybody says is the next great linebacker at Miami? Now, my question
Yeah.
is, go ahead.
This is probably the weakest linebacker core I've seen in a while. And you and me, we both have a lot of respect for Josh Pate from the late kickoff show. And he said, if I'm Miami, I go straight to the transfer portal this offseason. I get a linebacker. And I think that could be I think Manny Diaz should do that.
But who do we go get though? That's my question.
There's always going to be one player that pops out. It's so big, the transfer portal. I mean, there's so many, players from schools that you never know. We saw the situation with Tyreek Stevenson. He wanted to play closer to home. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There could be something, already in the works, but, there's got to be one player, that comes out that Miami gives the green light for, because our personnel is just weak.
There has to be somebody. Please, somebody show up.
I'm not trying to pick on, your Bradley Jennings, but I mean, look, man, once we step out of ACC play and we play for the conference title game against Clemson, you play in Alabama, true colors are going to show.
And I'm with you, man, but I'll say this much. Cross that road when you get there as a team.
Yeah.
You're going to get there the first game of the season. I 100% understand that. You can't change it. It's set in stone. It's nothing we can do right now. You got to be able to present it with the best thing you can. Last time I checked in the portal, the linebackers there aren't even like that. I mean, you had the dude from USC, you had the guy from Tennessee, and we're no longer trying to keep recruiting Shaq Quartermans, who are 6'2 plus, 260 pounds, and can't even lay the lumber. That doesn't even make any sense. There's a reason why he went late 4th round. There's a reason. Okay. We want to be able to get men who can move. I've always said James Williams is the future linebacker at Miami. People like it or hate it. If you're 6'5", 225 before you even touch the freaking football field in college, what's going to happen come May 16th? And you go from that and you start lifting and eating at the collegiate level. You can either take it or leave it. At this point. And if Keontra Smith at 5'10", 212 can do it, what do you think a 6'5", 225-pound guy can do?
I was looking. I just want to confirm this. In the NFL, they moved Ray Armstrong to linebacker, right?
Oh! Come, Mark, please, you can finish this. I have said this for weeks. Okay, continue. I'll let you finish. Go ahead, because you're gonna say all the names that I've already said multiple times. Go ahead.
I mean, just, a lot of players, coming out of high school, James Williams is compared measurement-wise to Ray Armstrong. Ray Armstrong, we put him at safety coming out in his career at Miami. We've had this situation, not different positions per se, but Sam Shields playing wide receiver. You move him to the secondary, playing cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. Rest is history. Start putting players in at their appropriate positions, and it's tough to identify, and I feel like that relies on your staff at hand to identify those players, where in the NFL, it's a better coaching staff you have. They can evaluate players compared to college football coaches, so they're going to make the necessary improvements right away and the position changes, and it's going to benefit a lot of players. So, hey, I think those were just two quick examples. I mean, I can think of plenty more if we had more time.
You go Ray Armstrong gets the NFL. Jamal Carter, he gets to the NFL for the Broncos. What is he? Linebacker.
Because, the way we look for hard-hitting safeties. That's what we look for. Physical, athletic, hard-hitting safeties in the transition.
Because everybody wants to recreate Sean Taylor. We're not going to do that.
No, you will never. Yeah, nobody will ever recreate Sean Taylor. Nobody.
That's absolutely. My thing. Number one, that number should be retired. Of course, for what he did, but to pay respects to him being murdered, you probably should go ahead and retire that number, so no one else has to deal with that. Because we got people in our fan base calling Irvin Hall trash because he wears 26 and he's just not Sean Taylor. It's not his fault. He's not 6'3", 225 pounds. But do you know who's 6'3", 225 pounds? Actually, he's taller, and he's coming here. But you want him to play safety. Not you, but fans. They want him to play safety. Okay. Mm-hmm.
There's probably so I can say you can put Amari Carter Well, they basically are putting him a striker, which is where he should be at. You can probably put all those players at inside linebacker, that you mentioned. Amari Carter, Gervin Hall. They're just, physical, they're athletic, they have the measurements for it. It's not like it's a hard position like an edge rusher, like a defensive tackle, where you need physical measurements, physical arm length, I mean, you would know best, Wholesome One, So if you're stating it,
I'm just a guy. I'm I'm just a guy, and to some people I'm just a fat guy. That's all
look
right,
what we
man.
did
That's
with
good.
look what we did with Bandy because of depth concerns. We didn't have the personnel on the outside at corner, so we had to move on the outside. And I
And
thought it
you
ruined his
called that.
career.
You called that how long ago? You're like, this dude, if
I
he's not
remember
a
that.
nickel, he can't be on the
That's it.
outside.
That's
I'm
it.
sorry,
You can't.
5'8", 205 pounds is just not what we need at number one corner. And look at what happened in 2019. But hey, we're haters. We don't know what we're talking about. We're just YouTubers who don't watch film. We don't identify. We don't study. We're just guys with YouTube channels. It's okay, man.
Well, I'll tell you what,
guys.
Mark is the voice of college football, man, and I'm just grateful to be on his show and to meet you and talk football with you, Wholesome One. It's been a pleasure, and we've been doing this for close to 3 years, and it's we've come a long way. There's been we've lost some YouTubers, and there's been some new ones as well. So just grateful.
I love Mark.
I'm just listening.
Hey man, we only the real survive. It's just that simple.
100%.
Hey man.
But I gotta wrap it up. No, I appreciate you.
Yeah, get to work or do whatever you gotta do, man.
Paul, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for having me on, guys. And hopefully we'll be able to do a collab like this, you, me, and Mark, later on in a future date. We'll set it up.
That sounds good, Paul.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys.
I appreciate it.
Head on over to Paul's channel. Appreciate that, Paul. Have a good one.
See y'all at 8 p.m. I'm going live at 8, so I appreciate it.
Going live at 8. There it is. Check out the Wholesome One's channel. Live at 8. So get on over there. All right, man. Thanks for checking in. We're good for Thursday, right? All right. He's on out. All right. I am going to turn around and do another live show, call-in show. So get your questions ready, your comments ready. Call me up, 860-499-3332. But I'm going to shut down this link, open up the next link. So if you keep it locked in here on the front page of the channel, you should be in good shape to catch up with our 6 o'clock show that is now going to be around 6:25. So as soon as I shut this down, I'm going to be right back at you for our call-in show for tonight. And please give us a call. Jump right back in, Miami fans and everybody else, to talk college football tonight right here at the Voice of College Football.